Indian classical music is one of the world's oldest forms of classical music. In India, the music tradition is divided into two: North Indian classical music, also known as Hindustani Sangeet, and South Indian classical music or Carnatic Sangeeta. The Nat Shastra of Bharat Muni is one of the ancient treatises on dramatic arts believed to have been written between the 3rd century BC and the 5th century AD, where Bharat mentions two ancient parent scales called the Sharaj-grama and the Madhyam-grama. The placement of notes in the two gramas differs from the placement of Shrutis. Richard Widdis, in his book The Ragas of Early Indian Music, writes that the most ancient scriptures of Hinduism date from 1500 to 1000 BC. The music component was derived from the Samaveda, literally means songs and knowledge, the tradition of chanting Vedic verses in sacrificial rituals. He mentions that in modal concepts, the number of recognized modes increased from 18 to at least 260 between the early 1st millennium and the 13th century. Pandit Venkatmukhi, in his treatise Chatur Dandi Prakashika, first arranged his Janak Mela Karta system consisting of 72 melas in the 17th century. Later, Pandit Viśnū Nārāyaṇ Bhātkhaṇḍe selected 10 melas out of these 72 and introduced Bhātkhaṇḍe's 10 hāṭ system in the early decades of the 20th century. In North Indian classical music, ragas are generally classified into groups or families according to scale. These scales are called hāṭ-s, which means parent scales, or sometimes melas or mela karta in Sanskrit. According to Bhātkhaṇḍe, almost all the ragas used in North Indian classical music can be classified among the 10 hāṭ-s by excluding one or more notes from their parent scales. While this classification system exists and is sometimes referred to, it is not very satisfactory. Bhātkhaṇḍe himself acknowledges this and uses the term pramel praveshik, which means entering from one hāṭ to another, to describe those borderline ragas that can be classified in either of two hāṭs. Ragas like Madhukant, Madhuvanti, Natbhairav, Charokeshi, Simhendra, Madhyam, Ahir Lalit, Lalit, Kirvani, Chandrakans, and Pardeep cannot be classified correctly in any of these 10 hāṭs. To solve such classification problems, the number of hāṭs was increased to 32 by adopting some of the scales from the South Indian classical music. The term hāṭ applies only to those scales which fulfill certain conditions. A hāṭ must have 7 notes. The notes must be in the sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha and ni sequence. Both Śuddh and Vikṛit versions of a single note are forbidden. The Śuddh and Vikṛit sur will be explained later in this video. A hāṭ does not have separate ascending and descending lines, unlike ragas which have distinct ascending and descending patterns. A hāṭ does not have any emotional quality, in contrast with rag, which by definition have the power to convey emotions. The hāṭs are named after prominent ragas to make them easy to remember and recognize, whether these are heptatonic or not. Śuddh sur. In Bilawal hāṭ, all the sur are Śuddh, which means pure. In Western music, they are known as naturals and structured precisely the same as a C major scale. They are considered so because most notes have consonant intervals from the tonic sa. Sa, Sharaj or Kharaj, Re, Rishabh, Ga, Gandhar, Ma, Madhyam, Pa, Pancham, Dha, Devat, Ni, Nishad or Nikhat. In these 7 sur, Sa and Pa are immovable notes, which means they have only one version and they are called Achal or Kayam sur. Intervals between 7 Śuddh notes. The Western staff notation represents notes using Sa as C but does not indicate its absolute pitch. Sa to Re to Ga, Ma to Pa to Dha, and dha to ni are separated with black keys, making them a whole step apart, whereas ga to ma and ni to sa are just half a step apart. As mentioned earlier, among the 7 Śuddh Sur, sa and pa are achal or immovable, and the rest are chal or movable sur, which means they also have komal and tivra sur, and they are called Vikṛit sur. Re, ga, dha and ni, shown on the black keys in lowercase, are half a step lower than their Śuddh place and called komal sur, whereas ma sharp with a sharp symbol next to it is a half step higher than its Śuddh place and it is called tivra sur. If one or more sur in a ṭhāṭ are changed to a Vikṛit sur, we get a new ṭhāṭ. 10 ṭhāṭ system of Pandit Viśnū Nārāyaṇ Bhātkhaṇḍe. Nazir Ali Jairazbhoy, in his book The Rags of North Indian Music, which was written in 1971, explains how Bhātkhaṇḍe classified the 10 ṭhāṭs similarly to the Melakarta system used in South Indian classical music. The first 3 ṭhāṭs, Kalyan, Bilawal and Khamaj, have Śuddh Re and Śuddh Ga. The next 3, Bhairav, Purvi and Marwa, have Komal Re and Śuddh Ga. The next 2, Kafi and Asavari, have Śuddh Re and Komal Ga. While the last 2, Bhairavi and Todi, have Komal Re and Komal Ga. He further states that although it is convenient, this arrangement obscures the relationship between the different ṭhāṭs, such as Khamaj followed by the dissimilar Bhairav, and so do some other ṭhāṭs. Six of the 10 ṭhāṭs, Bilawal, Kafi, Bhairavi, Kalyan, Khamaj, and Asavari are musically related as they are serial progressions of each other. In Western musicology, these progressions, known as Gregorian or church modes, are sometimes referred to by their ground note tonic names, taking the natural scale beginning on the note C as the standard. Thus, the D mode refers to that succession of intervals obtained by playing. For instance, the white notes of a piano from D to D. The following serial modes are presented alongside their Indian counterparts. Since Pa, immovable, cannot be flatted, there is no ṭhāṭ from B note. As we discussed earlier, the similarity between these 6 ṭhāṭs indicates an unbroken continuity. Each ṭhāṭ contains only one imperfect interval, a tritone. And as its name implies, a tritone consists of 3 whole note steps, making an augmented 4. The position of the tritone seems broken between Khamaj and Kafi in the series of Bhātkhaṇḍe's ṭhāṭ system. Kalyan ṭhāṭ has an augmented 4th interval from Sa to Ma sharp or Ma tīvra. If we correct the tritone in any of them by lowering the upper note by a semitone, it shifts the tritone a 4th lower and produces another of these ṭhāṭs. When this process is continued, it results in the following succession. If these series were continued, the following scale would be the 7th mode, which has a diminished 5th Pa flat in direct relationship with the tonic Sa. As this scale would violate the fundamental premise of North Indian classical theory, the series cannot be continued further in this direction. Thus, the series of modes should end at Bhairavi and Kalyan. Jairazbhoy states that we could continue the series beyond Bhairavi by replacing the Pa flat with its enharmonic Ma sharp. As a result of this enharmonic change, the tritone irregularity of the 6 serial ṭhāṭs now becomes a diminished 4th. A diminished 4th has an interval of 2 whole steps. This can be corrected by raising the upper note a semitone, where 2 extensions beyond Bhairavi and Kalyan meet. Scale number 7, in which all the altered notes are used, Bhātkhaṇḍe acknowledges that this scale is not applicable because it requires a flatted pa. By arranging these thoughts in a particular order, we can create a key signature that corresponds to their respective scales. Similarly, we can also create a key signature for Bhairav Ṭhāṭ. After examining these scales, we can see that each one has an interval of a perfect fourth. A perfect fourth has an interval of 2.5 steps. Jairazbhoy creates what may be compared to the Western Circle of Fifth, what he calls the Circle of Ṭhāṭ-s. The circle indicates which note changes between scales and how it affects the key signature. Nine of the 10 are Bhātkhaṇḍe's Ṭhāṭ, and as mentioned earlier, the 7th scale is hypothetical and not used in the North Indian classical music. The succession of changing notes in a clockwise direction forms a circle of fourth. In the Indian musical system, the notes sa and pa never change, meaning there are only 10 changes. This leads to a discontinuity in the Circle of Ṭhāṭ-s, where the sequence of fourths is broken, with the Śuddh Re being followed by Śuddh Ma. This is because sa and pa are immovable notes that cannot be included in the circle of changing notes. In the circle, opposite poles always represent scales in which the opposite alternative notes are used. For example, Bilaval, the Śuddh natural scale, lies in scale number 7, where all the Vikṛit notes are used. The difference between the two can also be noticed in the remaining ṭhāṭs. I hope this video will help people understand the Bhātkhaṇḍe's 10 thought system, key signature and Circle of Ṭhāṭ-s. Please feel free to ask any questions in the comments. Thank you.